So hello and welcome everybody. In today's video I am going to talk about social engineering and the social constructs that we have placed on us in society. We are constantly living, a lot of us are constantly living a social construct. You know, we follow ideas, ideology and concepts that we think are for the higher cause and for the better of humanity, but we're actually just bringing more, almost like echoing that kind of darkness into realities for other people. There's a lot of people claiming to know what this world is and know the answers, and just be very careful to anybody that says what they know, what the answers are. Only you yourself will know that, and that's a matter of going within. And yeah, that is something that we all have to do, and we have to bypass the mind and we have to go and feel our inner energy. And that can be really difficult in the world we're in at the moment, but it is the time to do it. And I see so much distraction going on in this reality that people are pulled into all these different psyops and not even aware of it. And having worked with so many people in these fields and understanding how people are pulled into it, you know, it's really down to them not doing the inner work. And I hammer on about this, and the reason why I do is because that is what is changing reality. But there is going to be information that's going to be coming out in the next 6 months, a year, that will trigger people again. And that's in itself, you know, this is going back to what I was talking about, these constructs that we are given. We have to really be aware to them, because these are social constructs, and this is what I call social engineering, and it is controlled at the highest level and it filters down into society. And then what happens is people on alternative media, healers, self-development people, all get wrapped up in this, all wrapped up in it, and they echo exactly what this social engineering is, and they're just not actually providing any solutions. I've met so many people in these areas and worked with a lot of people in these areas, and I can say that their own personal life is a mess, and then they project it out into these modalities and stuff like this, and they don't deal with the stuff that's going on around themselves. And it's really sad that I realized that so many of us are kind of contributing to this social engineering and these social construct, these social programs, while the people, controllers, whatever you want to call them, the people at the top in these ivory towers, are just kind of laughing at all this. It's kind of quite comedic that we kind of live like this. And I understand the biggest construct of all, the biggest one, is this ego. And it is constant, even in the alternative media, the massive egos that people have, claiming information, claiming this, that, and believing that they are right and you are wrong, and all this stuff. It's ridiculous, seriously. We need to really address the inner self. What I mean by that is that when you're in that space and you feel silence, and you clear your thoughts, you meditate, you go into that empty space within, you will start to tune in to something very powerful, and it's beyond the mind. And this has gone on for years for me, because I still battle with certain things as well. I still have to deal with situations of the ego all the time. But what I'm seeing at the moment is this constant rising of these egos, where people are wanting to prove who they are, like and it's almost like people want to claim information. They want to claim, this is what they said, or, you know, I was saying this before, I was saying this 25 years ago. Like, you have people coming, healers, self-development gurus, and you just realize how dysfunctional society is. And, you know, I spoke about it before, but we live in a light and dark planet, and this is a duality where we're pulled into that dark or light energy, and a lot of people are unaware to it. They're living in this docile sleep, believing that they are actually awake, when actually they are living that inversion. Just because you earn a lot of money out of what you do, or it doesn't mean it's the right thing. You only have to look at the inversion on this planet and how people in corrupt positions are paid huge amounts of money. And you can understand how inverted that is. There is a very inverted system, and this frequency that is here, it can actually be a darker frequency, and people operate within it believing that they are connecting to source, they're connecting to God, they're connecting to all these things. But having worked so much in self-development and all these areas, now I know there is a huge problem with self-development because it distorts this reality, and it paints a very pretty picture. Everything's all right, the law of attraction, all these different elements. 100% there is definitely an inversion, but we are magnetizing this reality. No matter what you believe, no matter, you know, the darker situations, you know, we face, the challenges we face, as dark as they are, and sometimes these systems can seem so heavy, things can seem everything is so on top of you, and you're like, how has this happened? How has it come to this point? I mean, you know, God wouldn't do this, the Creator wouldn't do this, surely. I mean, you know, we're in a place where, you know, this is heaven on earth, surely, right? So, you know, why would them dark elements happen? Now, a lot of people are not understanding the birth, life and death process, and, you know, we do die, we're born, and there is an astral realm, there is an astral plane. That is really true. I can only talk from my own experience of that, and I won't go into that now, but I've experienced that a lot, and I can say that there is an astral realm, there is an astral reality, and when we pass, we move into that reality, and we move onto other realities as well, maybe on planet Earth, but also onto other places as well. That is purely a choice that you're making right now in this reality. And this world that we're in, this planet, this Earth, this plane, whatever you want to call it, it's here for us to learn and understand, so we move out of that. And the opposing energies are only there to assist with that, as much as they're dark, and you can be depressed and feel negative and anger and frustration and all these, really feel rejected. I mean, that's an awful thing to feel, but it's a learning process, and it's a learning curve. I have seen so many people pass around me in this world, and I know they move on. I've had a lot of family members go as well, and that's sad. It's sad, it's tragic, and anybody out there who's felt that is I feel for you, because it's such a deep place you go to when you feel that, when you have a brother or sister leave you, or mother or father for that. You can expect it with your mother and father, but when it's a sibling, it can really fracture you, and it really is a matter of replacing yourself and coming back to the self, and really reprogramming yourself to be in this reality, because these things are only teaching us about this astral plane that we're on. We have become so distorted from the social constructs that are around us, and all these teachings that are given to us from people that actually are very distorted themselves and inverted. They have a lot of trauma that they haven't dealt with. The darker elements of that society that we all don't like, they actually oppose us in a way to make us become light and actually become aware to that darker elements. Now, once we're aware to them, we evolve, and we evolve. It's cycles, you know. This is what it is. The world is in a cycle. We live in consciousness. Consciousness is growing all the time. This leads me on to the book Human Inversion. I started writing this in 2020 when, you know, I started making the films and all this, and I was writing it alongside all the scripts I was doing. And it kind of I just wanted to kind of like catalogue all this, the world that I kind of lived in for a long time. I lived in for 20, 30 years of my own experience of leaving home and living on my own at a very young age, and interacting with that system, interacting with the system around us. The more I've gone on, and the point I've got to is now I'm just really kind of understanding that the only thing we can do is connect within, and we can't be bothered about what's out there. It's not necessary for this journey. Life is so short, and I'm sure a lot of you are experiencing at the moment how fast everything is going, so quickly. Everything is passing so fast, and it's sometimes quite difficult to be in that moment because it is just constantly shifting. So yeah, my apologies if this video is a little bit jumpy, because I've had so many dog walkers come through here. London, you know, it's quiet wood, but I mean the birds are noisy, parakeets and all this around. But there's so many dog walkers around here, so I've just had dogs barking all the time, so I've had to cut it off. So if it's a little bit jumpy, please excuse me. And I just wanted to bring in this channel, this type of video, because I didn't really want to kind of have any outline or script here. I just wanted to talk about things that are on my mind and what I see in the world, and hopefully this can help you out. And you know, I like to express my thoughts, put my thoughts out there, and kind of keep a catalogue and diary of the way I'm thinking. So yeah, the chapter I'm going to talk about today is the social engineering and the dysfunctions that people are kind of living at the moment. This is so appropriate for now, and I just wish those so-called awake people that are out there could actually just let go of their egos and actually not worry about it, because it won't matter. I mean, that will only annihilate itself. And you know, if we allow that to happen, we're only kind of contributing to that negative dark frequency that we don't want to do. You know, it's really important that we kind of bring solutions and we bring things out in a positive way. You know, it's really hard for people, and people are making it very difficult because they're constantly creating these inversions. So people have lived so much trauma over many lives that they just come back into another place, and that they stay stuck in that mindset. And we're at that point again now as well, where we're going through that trauma, and people are not dealing with the inner stuff because their own trauma, they're like trauma's catching up on them. And kind of why I like the history side of things so much, because it gives you points in time where you can see these resets have happened and people have been in very traumatic situations, and then the world's reset, and then you stay in that loop. And this is really going on now, and you can see how the system's shifting, whatever reset, whatever you want to call it, and it's getting to a point where it's actually changing into this new system. And as we're doing that, people's trauma is coming back up from maybe this life, but also I feel other lives as well. And that's a long time. It's not just happened in the last 100 years or it's many lives. There is an astral plane that's existing around this world, and we need to be aware to it, because it's where we're all going to go one day. And that transition, and when we reach that point, we want to make them choices. We don't want to be in a traumatic state. So although you might be thinking that you're living this higher existence, being on this planet, and you're making loads of money out of all these modalities or certain areas of self-development, whatever. And this is coming from all my own experience of what I've observed and how I've been felt with people. But it's really is about connecting, ultimately just about connecting to the Godhead and this creation energy, and understanding that, and understanding that what energy is. That isn't as simple as it seems, because obviously the reality we're in, the way energy spoke about and the science we're taught is very different from that. It's always looked upon as a bit of a fringe idea, that this concept of energy and sound vibration and physics doesn't really, it's starting to, quantum physics is starting to explain these areas, but we don't really, you know, accept it fully in the material world we're in. And it is a creation of energy. We're only at the beginning of understanding that again, and we've been there before. We've understood this many times before, but there's been resets, and many times in history where these points have kind of gone back. And you know, that goes on to a much higher level, which I'm not going to go into on this one, but it is very off-planet, and it is very connected to other off-plane, or whatever way you see this world. I'm going to talk about a chapter in my book today, and the chapter is called Social Engineering, and this is in the Human Inversion book. And I'm just going to read through and then kind of talk about little sections. I'm not going to go through the whole chapter, but there's certain bits that I'd like to kind of talk about. But so social engineering is a psychological manipulation technique which is covertly implemented to negatively influence local and regional communities, to alter the collective of thinking of various individuals who exist in the material world. Because we are consistently given partial truths and misinformation by the mainstream media, the thoughts of most humans unconsciously obey the lies and repeat them with each other. This means the controllers and manipulators can then promote their restrictive ideologies. This doesn't mean we are told a lie completely, but information is diluted and information is held back from public inquiry and then fed through the media, distorting it yet again. So yeah, I mean, this is the way it works. It filters down, filters in, and even the media that, you know, when we think that like we're having an awakening, for example, that again, understand that's another social construct. So, you know, it's again to get you away from yourself and this inner self, and it's a constant process. This, it really goes on, and the manipulators know this. I call them manipulators because it's a force that we probably can't accept just yet. And I won't go into it even now because it's pretty intense. So every aspect of social engineering makes us escape our true emotions to separate ourselves from our true self. It will disconnect us from the core, programming us with toxic messages, usually done through products, within advertisement, via carefully created images, and that are placed into our unconscious, which make us react without even being conscious to them. So, you know, these programs that are around us, they are constantly really hammering on. And you realize that, you know, even when these, you know, awake programs or awoke programs are here, they actually got alternative agendas, and that goes for the same with the alternative media. I lose my faith in a lot of people. I realise that the systems we've got on this planet and the way the world is purely down to the dysfunctions of humanity and the way we operate within it. It's such a shame that, because you think that there's this opposing, well, I mean, there is an opposing force, but you believe that that's the only reason why it happens. But you really kind of understand when you kind of go down every rabbit hole. Well, I think I've gone down every rabbit hole, but you know, I'm sure there's more. But you really realise that how that manipulation is created, and it's really sad. It's really sad that, and it's disheartening. You realise you're actually quite alone in this world. There are people around us that we can connect with, and you know, but there's you know, people are very driven by the ego, and you know, we can't shed the ego, we can't get rid of it, but we shouldn't operate from it. And we should understand what the ego is, and we can actually use it. If we do understand it, we can actually use it for our benefit, and it's actually very positive. But unfortunately, people are pulled into the darker ego, even when they think they're working with light. And there's plenty of you out there, if you're watching, any of you. But you don't have to, you know. When you leave this life, you know, understand that your whole Akashic records, you know, the etheric records, whatever you wish to call them, everything's recorded. So your life has been recorded. So your actions, your energy, how what's motivated you. I'm not doing these videos for self-interest as much as sometimes it might come across like that. I've had comments where people think I'm, you know, just trying to be the man of knowledge and all this and put my information out there. But I actually do the videos because I want to explain my thoughts. I have to express what I feel inside, and I believe that that's what kind of we're all here to do in one way or another. We can't purely live in this world and be non-expressive as much as the world we're in is taught in this way. A little section from the book again, and this is about film in cinema, because I think one of the biggest inversions is way films have been created in the cinema, and understand that it's a magic spell that's put on to people, and a lot of people fall for it. Even other filmmakers, they follow the same paths of these Hollywood and all this kind of stuff. Holywood, you know, whatever you want to call it. But it's, I understand it's the druidic wand, you know. I've kind of said about that before, but it's finally intriguing that our filmmakers are incredible, but they don't actually express themselves through that medium correctly. But film in cinema began as a way to explore our minds, but soon was used for war propaganda to psychologically indoctrinate communities. We can see from Hollywood that film narrative has become dead, where stories repeat themselves over and over again. So with so little new stories to stimulate us, and with the repetition of story formula, we begin to live in someone else's story instead of looking at our own stories. That can help us to question this material world we have chosen to incarnate in. Hollywood wouldn't make these films if we didn't continue to watch them. So it really does just reflect the consciousness that's in society, and how society is looking at the film world and actually what they want and desire in themselves. So that's kind of interesting. If you want to get a good idea and a gauge for society and the society we're in, just look at what Hollywood are producing, because they're very aware of what films need to be made, and they will only make films if they are going to get an audience. And you can see how consciousness is operating and what level of consciousness it is by seeing that. And obviously sometimes you can look at it and go, is that the level of consciousness? Wow, really? And yeah, unfortunately it is. Censorship is also a form of social engineering, and something we should be very careful of when this happens. It is the most dangerous form of leadership and the biggest kind of warning that communities should be concerned with. Social engineering pretends to be about the protection of human rights and liberties, but is actually designed to influence the collective thought process. So then the programs are projected into the human psyche and slowly imprison the self. Once this happens, it can lead to our own self-censorship, which can further destroy any identification with the self, and will only put your mind into a sense of fear, where we can continue to shape our own prisons. The majority of leaders who use very well rehearsed persuasion techniques, and who therefore are using the archetype of the trickster, our so-called elected leaders will heighten your emotions by neural linguistic programming. This is NLP, to subconsciously whirl you up and put you in a frenzy and take you into a spell where you feel like you are in control, and this is your movie and your hero's journey, but actually your consciousness is being attacked without you being aware to it. Usually convincing you that it's for the benefit. This happens on a constant basis, and most fall for it. To hypnotize an individual, group or population, events of such intense and widespread fear must be created on a continual basis. So by keeping communities in a fear state, allow our societies to be completely indoctrinated and manipulated in how it wishes. You see how animals react to fear immediately. However, the difference with humans is we store this fear in a cellular level, and we keep it in the body. You are emotionally disconnected from yourself, where you don't observe and actually discern what is happening when emotional problems are not resolved. And this is what goes on, you know, these problems are not resolved and they just sink on, and people carry on with their lives, and they just think they're doing the right thing, and they think, oh my God, I'm serving this higher good, I'm living in all this great energy. And actually they're just living that inversion, and they're just echoing that out on a constant basis. And then obviously they're happy because their trauma is not being dealt with. They can literally step back from it and not be worried about it. So they it is constant, guys. I mean, you know, this is on every level. So we really have to be on guard. And what I'm trying to do in this video is just give you some tools so you become more aware to it. I'm not trying to control any situation in any form, but what I would like is to see people become aware to it. And people, especially people that are healers or in higher positions of authority, that have the ability to influence people, because this is vital. If we want this society to grow in a positive way, I see the intensity of this life and how much it will get more intense if we don't change this situation. And it is vital that we do this. We have to get there, no matter what we believe. We can literally go, and that some people at this point will then switch off the video and literally react, and you know, again, because it's not serving the ego, it's not serving their part of themselves. And I can only, again, speaking what I said, I'm only talking from my own experience, but I'm telling you that this is what I see, and this is the way I see what the problems are. I don't think that control system will always be there to some level. You cannot shed that. It's part of this existence of living on this planet. But what you can do is really balance the ego in yourself, so you can balance that energy within yourself, so you don't get caught up in these social constructs. But if we carry on operating in that egoic consciousness, there will be serious consequences. It's the way the world is. We have to return to the higher consciousness that we are. We have been so deceived about what this life is, and what this life is, and what death is, what birth is, all these different processes. You know, we have come into this life to understand and be taught and learn about ourselves, learn about this world. And that is part of strengthening who we are. Now that does carry on. That does carry on. So, you know, it is, and some people are in a loop. They are caught up because they never get to that point. They never reach that point where they can shift. They never reach the higher state where they can actually become aware, fully aware, because they're locked into that egoic consciousness. So throughout the Western world, we have been programmed with the beliefs of mass consumerism, the spiritually destructive imagery from pornography and other forms of sexual perversion, geopolitical violence, psychological and economic fear, and so much more. All deliberate actions to destroy the human psyche. Maybe preparing us for what is to come, but what happens when we remove ourselves from that fear game? So we can remove ourselves from that reality, and when we do that, we will find that you will feel alone. You will feel kind of, first of all, you'll feel, wow, okay, so not many other people think like this. And you'll be like, okay, so how I need to readjust here. So yeah, I don't really feel alone. I feel like there's always this other existence of energy around me. I feel like there's a communication that goes on with that in a beautiful way. And it helps me. It helps me understand things and gives me messages. It's almost like a channeling that comes into me that I can feel. And that's kind of why I'm doing these videos, is because I want to share that with you. I want to share what that information is, and you know, help you as well, so you can understand it as well. So we are on our monomyth, our hero's journey, and it's our spiritual learning pathway. Some of us are starting to observe many realities unfold with magnitude of life on planet Earth. The motions of darkness will always rise when truth is revealed. We must remember that this physical world is comprised of light and dark, and displays a vast array of resonances that exhibit aspects of both contrasting frequencies. This is why we just have to step back and disengage from the darkness. Be aware of it, but do not unconsciously engage with it. The ecosystems of Mother Nature should be seen as a kind of teacher, because the ecosystems can only thrive within the light. The darkness only serves a minimal purpose. We have to be in touch with the self to be fully aware of these programs. Otherwise, this actuality can be shaped in unexpected ways. Where do you find the time to think for yourself? Do you allow your mind to be removed from the program? Now, it's really down to that. So it's really, again, are you allowing yourself to be removed from this physical constructs of the social engineering that's happening? The world is intense at this time, but we are going to get through all this. Yeah, there is going to be a clearing period, and we need to do this work. We need to understand that, you know, religion and all these kind of aspects of our connection to God and all this stuff has been so distorted that people literally refuse God now. They're literally rejecting God. There's the alternative media, how they've come to this conclusion that the world is just a complete simulation. Now, I'm not saying I know what it is completely. Of course, it's very likely there is some sort of simulation to some level, of course. But it doesn't. When we reject God and we reject these kind of existence of God or the Creator, how dangerous that is. And we really need to be careful on that, because we're actually playing on that darker frequency. And there's so many people that are literally, you know, they don't understand how can God exist on a planet that creates darkness? How can, you know, how can this world be full of darkness? How can, you know, young children die at early ages? Well, we've misunderstood the whole idea of birth, life and death. You know, this is a cycle, and cycles come and go, you know, just like nature does, and these different elements to nature, you know, that's what we are. And we're all going to die one day. We're all physically going to die. You know, this is the way the planet works. So we have a journey, we have a soul journey, we have a hero's journey, whatever type of journey you want to call it. You know, we're on that journey and we move on, we keep going, and you know, everything you are in this life is listened to. Every part, every aspect of this world. Your thoughts, your words to your friends, your words to your family. This is all recorded. So, you know, I know some people don't like certain parts of religion, but you can understand why religion is important to certain levels. Some parts of religion. You know, again, that's been distorted again. But, you know, to have a set of teachings that teach you to be a better person, a better citizen, a better human, that is a good. That's what we want. We want values. We want positive values in this world, right? So, you know, we're reaching a point where there is so much dysfunction, so many people are falling for it. It really is disturbing. So thank you for watching, everybody. You can purchase the Human Inversion on Amazon in paperback and ebook, and I'll be doing a lot more of these as well. I really want to pass on this information. I just like doing the free-flowing videos sometimes. It's really nice for me because everything's so kind of worked out. I'm very, you know, being the video guy I am, I like to plan everything and always for it to be really perfected as much as possible. So it's really nice just to channel this information in and bring it to you. And also related to the book, you know, you can also join the members section, which is on the channel, which I've got loads of content in as well. I'll be putting more in there. Or you can join the Patreon, help support this work. I will be making films, so this is coming about, but just at the times we're in, I don't really see any need. I'm not pulled to make films. I don't think that's going to really bring people what I want to bring to people. So, you know, I feel that it's important that this information and messages is given to you in a brightest way possible. There is a very dark cloud over humanity at the moment, and you know, we have to be really aware of it. And, you know, going back to all what I've said is that, you know, the life coaches, anybody in self-development, anybody in that line of work where they are helping people develop, be really conscious of yourself and how your information is coming through, and really question whether or not this is a channel, or is this a filter? Is this something coming in from another place that maybe I'm not fully aware to? And this really has to be addressed, because the world that you are painting is, you are just contributing to that darkness without even being aware to it. And you might think you are, but you're really not. So I would advise that you kind of really question that and look into that more. But until next week, I will see you soon.